Hi guys, hello everyone. Thank you for watching this video and welcome back to our channel RK Data Labs. We are into day number 2 of our AWS series. We are going to cover S3 topic today. So we are going to see what is S3, how to create buckets in S3, how to manage files folders and set up versioning and replication strategy in S3 buckets. What are the S3 use cases in IT industry as well. So before going into the deep dive, let's see what is S3 basically. So S3 is nothing but simple storage service. It is an object storage service. Okay. So whenever we used to store any files or we create folders and we store files in S3, so it will just treat it as an object rather than a file. So that is why we call them as object storage service rather than a file system. Okay. So majorly S3 is designed in AWS only for the purpose of having multiple scalability and for the purpose of data availability all 24/7, and more importantly security. The data security is very important, and again performance is going to be absolutely good when you try to read your data or write your data in S3 bucket. In addition to that, storing and protecting any amount of data for any use case that you take, like there are like large number of use cases can be used in S3. For example, you can build a data lake for your big data project or any kind of advanced data analytics, or you can run through a cloud native applications, or if you have a huge amount of data that you want to use for the purpose of only backup your critical data, you can still use this S3 as one of the important layer. And if you don't want to take a backup, you still want to keep a copy of data in your S3 location, you can still do an archive data at the low cost strategy. So these are fundamentally some of the frequent applications or use cases used for S3 in AWS infrastructure. Here, now let's go on to the live demo session of how to create couple of buckets in S3 and what is the strategy of creating versioning, replication, and how do we create files, how do we create folders, how do we enable the versioning control system in S3. Let's talk about more. Here we go. So if we go here, as you know, we should have a valid user and account ID. So I'm into the AWS management console. So I'm just going into S3 service page. So the moment you go here, it will pop up couple of buckets page. So where you can able to see a create bucket page. So I have already 3 buckets in my place. So where if you take this access, you have like buckets and objects not public. So you can still make it as private or public based on your wish. Let's try to create a bucket now. Let's have the bucket name as AWS demo bucket test. And if you see here, you will be prompted to have a region. So if you take any other pages, say let's say like you are going into EC2 instance. So this is a EC2 instance page. You will see a valid region over in the rightmost top corner. But whereas if you go into S3 bucket, while creating, you will be prompted to only have global. That doesn't mean that it will create buckets in all the regions. You are allowed to create bucket in any of the regions wherever you wish. So if you see the prompt, there will be like couple of regions available here. So where I'm just by default, I'm just creating my bucket in US East 1. So if you want to make it as US East 2, you can still go ahead and make use of it. So I don't want to use any choose bucket option. Let's keep it as is. And these are ACLS access controls list. So whenever if any third party users or groups are requesting any access to your bucket or objects in your bucket, you can still feel free to enable this. But at the moment by default, I'm just disabling this ACLS. And then comes the block all public access. So whenever without any ACLS control your bucket, you can still block all your public access. Let's say you are creating a folder in your bucket. So that folder cannot be used by anyone other than the owner of the bucket, will still be controlled by using this option. So if you just disable this, if you will prompted to have all 4 things. So this is like setting up your access to respective buckets and objects. So remember that objects are nothing but files which are present in buckets. So that can be controlled via a ACLS, access control lists. Okay. So at the moment what I'll do, I'm just blocking all my public access such that only the owner of the bucket has necessary permissions to create, delete, list or whatever. Okay. So just ensure that you are just enabling this block all public access. Then comes the bucket versioning. Always by default it will be disabled. The moment you try to enable it, this is nothing but versioning is a beautiful thing that you present in buckets, which allows you to have multiple copies of your data whenever you try to accidentally delete your data. Let's say you have one file and you are accidentally deleting that file, or you still want to delete that file, and then later if you want to recover that file, you can still recover that file from the version. So that is something we call them as bucket versioning. So the only thing we want to have is you want to enable that bucket versioning. And the tags optional, don't want to worry about that. Encryption, only if you want to make your data safe and secure, you can still use this option of encryption. Let's not use these options right away. And there are a couple of advanced settings. Let's not worry about that. Let's try to create a bucket now. So these are the default options, very easy options so that we can create our own bucket. So if you see here, this is our bucket which is falling under region US East 1 and which is showing an access of bucket and objects not public. So I'm going to have my files ready. So I'm just going to upload my files here. So I'm just clicking on add files. So I'm just using, let's say, index.html. I'm just uploading it. Upload got succeeded and you can able to see this file. If you want to download this file, just click it and then click on download. It will easily able to download. Alright, yes. So if you still want to have your version enabled, you can still make it. How do you make it? Go to properties and you can still, if you want to make it to disable, if it is enabled, you can still make it. You can just click on it. You can just, the second time whenever the bucket has been created, it will throw a name called suspend instead of disable. Okay, so I'm not going to suspend it, let it be enabled itself. So I'm just going to cancel it. So what if I'm going to delete my file? Okay, so let's delete this file. How to delete the file? Simple, just click on delete objects, it will just delete it. So now I want to see my file, whichever the file which got deleted. How do I see? Just click on show versions. You will be able to see two different HTML files, one with the type of delete marker. That doesn't mean that it is a file which is still present in S3 bucket. It is there. So as like we know that in Windows we have a recycle bin, right? As like that, S3 will still hold your file. It will tag it as delete marker. So how do you recover that file? So the one previous version before the delete marker has is nothing but the second file, the index.html. If you want to make you copy into that file, just download it and you can still move this file. How do I do? Just go here and upload it. I'm just simply uploading my file. That's it. So this is the easy way to have your versioning control enabled for a bucket. This will be very helpful whenever a file or folder is getting deleted accidentally. So that's very important, guys. All right. Yes. So these are the files. So let's say if we want to create a folder, I'm just going here. Okay. I'm just creating a folder simply, and I can still use that folder to have my objects ready. So let's say, how do I upload my file? Simple, go here, go to add files, simple, you can just upload the file here. So just keep uploading to the folder which you got created. Okay, so now there is a file and there is a folder available. Okay, so here comes, there are a couple of tabs and menus which are available in a single bucket, where you can see what are all the properties that you have set, permissions and management. So under properties, as I said before, bucket versioning will still be available to edit. It can be either suspended or enabled, but it's always recommended to have it enabled for any accidental delete purpose. And then comes all the encryption related, uh, things that we want to do. Let's not worry about that, all these things. Let's move on to the permissions. And if you go to permissions, one important thing is buckets and objects not public. If you want to make it to public, you can still edit it and you can turn off all these public access settings. And here comes the metrics. Metrics are nothing but what is the total volume of your bucket, which means total bucket size, how many number of objects which are present in your bucket. All these kind of important stuffs, metrics related thing, will be present over here. All right. And then comes the management. This is very important, guys. So you will have two things. One is lifecycle rule and the other one is replication rule. If you click life cycle rule, you can still make your, like how long the file should be exist in your bucket. Let's say let's have a life cycle called test life cycle. Okay, I'm going to have this file or folders or whatever, whichever, which is present in S3 for a specific number of days. Okay, and then I want to move it to some location, like maybe like Amazon Glacier. So I can just click on it. If I want to put like maybe after 30 days, I want to make this data whichever is present inside the bucket to move it to Glacier. So likewise, I can just have this all these predefined configurations ready. Okay, I'm just creating my rule. Okay, I can add this test. Now it should be creating a life cycle. So this life cycle can be used across any number of S3 buckets that you are actually going to create. Okay, so life cycle is basically tells you how long your objects can be kept in your buckets, okay, in a region, in AWS region for a specific number of days. You can keep like 1 day or 30 days or 1 year or 5 years or whatever. Okay, so this life cycle will tells you like how long you should keep your files in your S3 bucket. So that's so simple. And then comes, if you go to management, the second one is create replication rule. Replication rule is nothing but you want to copy simply from one source to another bucket. Okay, say let's say you have one bucket called demo bucket test. You have another bucket. Automatically, if you want to keep your data from one bucket to another bucket, you can just simply go and create a replication rule for a specific number of days. After that, you want to simply move that files or folders to one specific bucket, you can simply do it. Let's say I'm just going to, by default it will be enabled, let it be enabled. So I'm going to give a target and destination bucket in this place. I'm going to use this bucket. I'm not going to use any IAM role. Let's not worry about that. Simply I'm just going to save. Okay, so what should be, so let's have this as test. Okay, it will prompt you to have two options. One is do not replicate or replicate. So by default I'm just going with no, do not replicate objects. I'm just submitting it. So I have my own replication rule ready. This can be still used in any of your S3 buckets after creating a bucket in S3. Okay, so today we have covered a couple of things here. What is S3 and how to create a bucket in S3, what is versioning and how do we create files, folders, how do we delete a file and folder, and what is replication rules, how to set replication rules, what is lifecycle rule, how to set lifecycle rules in S3. Hope you have enjoyed this video. Please subscribe my channel if you want any other videos relating to AWS, cloud, big data or artificial intelligence. Thank you guys. We'll meet you next time.